The Joker, the villain who broke Hollywood.
Before there was chaos, there was a man who smiled too much, who laughed at things that weren't funny, who looked at a world built on order and rules and decided none of it mattered. His name was the Joker, and he didn't just become one of the greatest villains in cinema history. He became a mirror, a reflection of everything we're afraid to admit about ourselves. This is his story. Act 1. The origin of evil. No one agrees on where the Joker came from. That's by design. In the comics, his past changes depending on who's telling the story. One day, he's a failed comedian. Another day, he's a mob enforcer. Another day, he's just a man who had one bad day and never recovered. The Joker himself said it best. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. That ambiguity is what makes him terrifying. You can't profile him. You can't predict him. You can't understand him the way you understand other criminals. He doesn't want money. He doesn't want power. He doesn't want revenge. He wants to prove a point. The point is this, that civilization is a joke, that the laws, the rules, the social contracts we all agree to follow are nothing but a thin layer of paint over something much darker. And all it takes is one bad day to strip that paint away. The Joker had his bad day, and he decided to share it with the world. Act 2. The performance that changed everything. Hollywood has given us many Jokers, but two performances stand above everything else.
In 1989, Jack Nicholson put on the white face paint and the purple suit and gave us a Joker who was theatrical. Flamboyant, dangerous the way a loaded gun in the hands of a showman is dangerous. You're never sure when it's going to go off, but you can't look away.
Nicholson's Joker was a gangster who fell into a vat of chemicals and came out the other side completely unhinged. He danced to Prince. He defaced priceless artwork. He gassed an entire city with poisonous cosmetics. He was terrifying, and he was fun. And that combination was something cinema had never quite seen before. But then came 2008. Heath Ledger walked onto screen in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight and did something nobody expected. He didn't play the Joker as a villain, he played him as a philosopher. Ledger's Joker didn't care about the money. In one of the most iconic scenes in movie history, he burns an entire mountain of cash. He burns it because money represents order, and the Joker hates order. He wanted to prove that when things get bad enough, when the pressure gets high enough, every person, every hero, every good man with good intentions will break. He wanted to prove that people are only one bad day away from becoming him. And the performance Ledger gave was so committed, so utterly consumed by the character, that it cost him everything. Heath Ledger died before The Dark Knight was released. He never saw the standing ovations. He never saw the Oscar he won posthumously. He never saw the way an entire generation of movie fans looked at that performance and called it the greatest villain in cinema history. Act 3. The psychology. So why do we love the Joker? That's the uncomfortable question. Because we do love him. We root for him in ways we shouldn't. We quote him. We put his face on t-shirts. We watch his scenes over and over again, not because we're afraid of him, but because something about him resonates. Here's the truth. The Joker says the things we're not allowed to say. He does the things we would never do. But sometimes think about when the world feels unfair and senseless and cruel. He looks at a society that rewards certain people and punishes others for reasons that have nothing to do with merit or goodness, and he calls it out. Violently, chaotically, destructively, but he calls it out. There's a reason the 2019 Joker film, starring Joaquin Phoenix, hit a nerve with audiences in a way no superhero movie ever had. It wasn't a superhero movie. It was a character study about a man who fell through the cracks, a man who was mentally ill, economically abandoned, socially invisible, who one day decided he was done being invisible. That movie made people uncomfortable because it asked a question most blockbusters avoid. What if the villain has a point? Joaquin Phoenix earned that answer an Oscar. The film made over $1 billion at the box office, and it proved that the Joker isn't just a comic book character anymore. He's a cultural phenomenon. Act 4. The Legacy. No villain in cinema history has been portrayed by more acclaimed actors. Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix, Barry Keoghan. Each one brought something different. Each one found a different angle on the same fundamental question. What does a man look like when he has nothing left to lose? The Joker endures because that question never gets old. As long as there are systems that fail people, as long as there are men and women who feel invisible, as long as there are days so bad they change you forever, the Joker will be relevant. He's not just Batman's enemy, he's the enemy of the idea that everything is fine. And in a world where everything is very clearly not fine, that makes him the most honest character in the room. Outro. The Joker once said, "Why so serious?" But here's what he was really asking. Why do we pretend? Why do we smile through the pain? Why do we follow the rules of a system that was never built for everyone? He didn't have the answers. He just had the questions and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. The Joker wasn't born a villain. He was made into one by a world that looked away. And that, more than the makeup, more than the laugh, more than any performance, is why we can't stop watching him. If you want more deep dives like this, subscribe to Villain Lore, New Villain, every week, because every story has two sides, and the villain side is always more interesting.